And we are live for another boxing chit chat here. I think this is number 14 of the series. So Joshua and Boz in the mix here. How's it going, Boz?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a very nice day here, actually. We got some really heavy sun. Yeah, it's pretty warm. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're in the same place. As a matter of fact, it's pretty sunny out here from a weather perspective. And as a matter of fact, I have to go practice tennis later. So I'm gonna try and work that out, and we'll see how it goes though. But
All
I've been
right.
doing some tennis lessons,
No.
just getting in the mix,
Oh, yeah.
trying
You
to
are
compete with Roger Federer.
taking up tennis now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was always
But,
interested. This was an
all right.
opportunity to get some training, so now I'm doing it. I'm aiming for Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, all the Rafael
Yeah,
Nadal. Let's go.
there I was watching. There was a final in that Roland Garros tournament. So there was a
Oh yeah.
Norwegian who was playing, but he lost to Nadal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people
Yeah,
can say that, huh?
it's a nice sport. Yeah, I used to be interested when I was like, 16, 17, but it's
Yeah.
not so easy to get into a tennis club here in Norway. Anyway, so,
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'd imagine they can be very expensive here
yeah,
as
especially
well.
when you are an immigrant. So,
Yeah.
so
Cool, but that aside, instead of exchanging rackets, we work with exchanging punches. In the sport of
yeah,
boxing here. And speaking of that, we had some good stuff last night. Of course, the big fight. Well, I guess all of them could be considered big fights, but the I guess marquee prime fight, the history-making fight, was that in which it involved Devin the
mm,
Dream Haney taking on George Kambosos of Australia for the undisputed lightweight championships. And so now the winner has all the belts. And of course, that winner was none other than Devin Haney. In a
yeah,
great performance, he traveled to enemy territory in a sense, and he took on Cambosos
yeah,
right in his backyard. And you would say the odds were stacked against him, but he overcame and showed that he is on that elite level, even here at 23 years of age, and he seems to be continually improving. I don't know how much of the fight you may have had the opportunity to see, but from what you've seen thus far, what were your thoughts on how the Dream performs and Cambosos as well?
yeah. I didn't see that much, unfortunately. I did see some highlights, but it was. But anyway, I did read about it, and it looked like it was as I expected. Devin Haney fought a technical fight,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much, and Kambosos, he fought the only way he can fight. The way he fights, he fought. He slugged and was trying to. He was obviously trying to knock Haney out, so he would do those. I saw those feints he did, and then he threw those rights and left hooks and stuff. But yeah, I guess it was just a bad matchup for him because Haney is simply, and he's got the jab, so that the jab pretty much they say won him the fight, and even
Yeah.
though I didn't watch the whole thing, but it looked like he was really dominant, working of that jab, and simply outboxing Kambosos, and he did get some shots. He did take some clean, hard shots, but
Yeah.
I guess Cambosos is not a big puncher. As I said before, he's not a really big puncher. So, like Virgil Ortiz, for instance, or something like that. So, he
Okay. Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
able to do so much damage and not enough. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree there. Camboso, yeah, what had worked for him in the past, yeah, it doesn't seem to shape up that in that same manner this time around with him going up against Haney. And I saw some references, at least online, some people mentioning, of course, there's a different style of fight that was fought by Haney by comparison to Teofimo Lopez, who came out
yeah,
fairly aggressive. And while he caught Cambosos, he himself got caught as well within
yeah,
those exchanges. And
he
it kind
sure
of
did.
Yeah, yeah, it kind of derailed his fight plan probably to a certain degree, and
Yeah,
then he had to batten down, and of course
it was the
Kambosos came
ego,
through.
and the ego, his ego got the better of him. he
Indeed,
wanted
indeed, it
he
did,
wanted
and
to knock out Cambosos, and then he paid the price, of course. But I
yeah,
must say, I must give props to Haney for agreeing to come to Australia to fight Cambosos, because I know many other American top fighters would have not really been
mm-hmm.
so keen on that, at least. And many would have just said, no, no way, I'm not going down there all the way to Australia to fight. Yeah.
Yeah, he showed supreme confidence in that sense, and I think it paid dividends for him because ultimately ended up he ultimately ended up being able to go in there and do his thing. He didn't let the crowd or anything
Mm,
distract him, and they were very much against him. And you could tell that in the atmosphere that it was a pro Cambosos crowd as expected,
yeah.
and they really turned out. It was a good event.
Yeah.
Uh,
And he didn't even have his father, Haney. Like I think I read, yeah, he will had to go without his father, because it
yeah,
was something about the Australian authorities, was it not letting him in or something?
Yeah, it was a visa issue, but
Yeah.
interestingly enough, it came in sort of in a late breaking fashion. But his father was able to actually to make it. It was like the night
Oh,
before or something like that. It was
all right.
just the night before, but the for the rest of the time that
Nice.
he has been over there, he wasn't able to be there. So he's being trained by Yoel Judah and all of that. So
Oh,
his father
yeah.
was able to make it there at the last
Hmm.
minute. So he was there at the fight. It was like a little late breaking thing that they were able to work out. It was a temporary
Nice.
visa granted.
Yeah, but
I think
Yoel
that helped
Judah
him.
Yoel has some good experience training his son,
Yeah,
and yeah,
yeah,
he knows
he
what he's
definitely does.
doing, of course.
Yeah, yeah, he definitely does. So he was in good hands for sure. Just thinking about that.
Yeah.
Greg Sandwich,
Oh,
shout out to
hello.
Sandwich. Mad, motivated, ambitious, driven. Check him out, y'all. Motivated, ambitious,
What's up?
driven. Got the predator in the profile. Represent, represent. But
Oh, yeah. It's,
Greg Sandwich says, "Congrats to Haney, but he's the most boring undisputed
oh,
champ in history."
yeah. I saw some other people saying that on another live chat that I was today earlier, and yeah, I saw that. I don't know really. I don't know what to think about it. I don't know enough about Haney really too.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah, I guess it depends. Yeah, it wasn't. It didn't have the glitz and glam
yeah,
of some other fights. He did pretty much thoroughly outbox Kambosos. Kambosos had his moments there in the later rounds. I would say he had a couple of rounds where he had some pretty good moments or whatever, and actually won a round or two, maybe three,
yeah,
probably tops or something somewhere around there, depending on how you score it all. But yeah, it was very much a Haney controlled fight. It was fought at his pace, and of course, Haney is not a huge puncher. He can get people out of there, but just it's
yeah,
going to be tough for him to do it at this elite level, just given his style anyway.
yeah.
So he had to just thoroughly outbox him. So that's one of
He's
those
like
things that
I would say he's more like a precision puncher. If he really times somebody perfectly, then he can get them out of there. But he's not usually a one punch guy or something. No,
yeah, I agree. Um, yeah, I agree. He is not that, but he showed that he's very skilled,
yeah.
and I think I consider him the top 135 pounder now, by proxy. Essentially, he beat
Well,
the
you
guy, and everyone's
yeah,
mind he beat the guy.
you have to, because he's undisputed. Anyway, for that reason, at least he is the top lightweight. No,
Yeah,
Greg,
yeah. So
says
it leaves the
something.
possibility for more fights that or more matchups
Yeah,
that as far as 135 because they have sorry, I was writing the text, of course, throwing me off. But
yeah,
but there are a lot of matchups at 135 that can be made that will be super beneficial to boxing fans, the
Mm,
sport as a whole, because they're interesting style clashes.
yeah,
Greg Henry say now it's time for a real undisputed championship fight, and I think we're gonna get that in the likes of Terence Bud Crawford against Errol Spence for sure, for sure.
October, I think they said me it will happen, something like
Yeah,
that.
Greg
Yeah,
Sanders, he did what was necessary, but his reign won't last long. I don't think. And then he said, Greg Sanders says, I don't see Haney beating Teofimo Lopez, Loma, Tank, or even Garcia. What are your thoughts on that, Vaz, in terms of his matchup with those guys? A team of
yeah,
Teofimo, he may not. I know he's supposed to be moving to 140, so we may not get to see that one at least here at 135 pounds. But Loma, Tank, and
yeah.
Garcia are very much real possibilities.
Well, I don't know about Lomachenko. He's been, gone for so long, and in those troubles in Ukraine. I don't
Yeah,
know how much that will affect him, but I think it
that is
will.
true.
Yeah. Anyway, if he fights, well, I would call that. Well, I would still maybe slightly be on on Loma's side. I mean, I would slightly favor him, but I don't know really if he is still the same guy. That's the big question. But if he, yeah, nice one. If he still is at least like 90% the guy he used to be, then he can win, of course. But it will be a really good fight, pretty even fight. And then Tank,
Yeah,
well, that's a tough one. Also,
yeah, it
Tank
is.
is, of course, a dangerous opponent for anyone. I think that will be also pretty much a 50-50 fight, or maybe 60-40 Tank's advantage, maybe. And Garcia, yeah, I mean that's even closer. I mean, they're both guys would have equal chance, I think, to win that one. So
Yeah,
not gonna have any predictions for what happens, but you know, anything
yeah,
can happen.
yeah. That is true. I would say the most intriguing out of all of them involves some combination of Tank versus any other top 135 pounders. That's probably the most
Yeah,
intriguing. Getting an understanding of a how they match up from a just fundamental standpoint, because we know that Tank can box. He does have some fundamentals, but we know him for that
yeah,
big punch. So it'll then go to B, which is how can these opponents hold up to Tank's punches? And he's been able to get just about everyone out. I think in his 27 wins, he has 25 knockouts. So
yeah,
that makes it very intriguing with him being matched up with whomever he's matched up with at 135, to include Devin Haney, which I think would be a very interesting fight, just given the way in which Haney operates. He has a solid jab. He's going to be the taller fighter, longer fighter, and he did a good job at controlling Kambosos, who was really kind of coming forward the
yeah.
entire night, and that would make you think that how does a matchup with Tank, like how would they actually operate once they're actually in the ring? Just
You
is he
know,
going to be able to keep them off? That's very
yeah,
interesting.
exactly, yeah. Actually, despite Cambosos being, the undisputed or not almost undisputed, let's say, he's still, people forget, he's still out of all these that we mentioned, he's the weakest actually car, I would say,
Yeah,
because he only beat Teofimo, and that was a very close fight too. But
yeah,
Teofimo, as you already said, he made a mistake, just getting out of there, trying to knock him out, and you know he paid for that. And
yeah, yeah,
we've
yeah.
seen, I believe, last night or whenever that was in your in your country, what time it was, I don't know. But we've seen now that he has his limitation. He has his limits definitely as a boxer. Technically, that. So
Yeah, yeah, that, and that's going to be certainly a challenge. The big question is going to be whether this rematch is going to happen, because apparently, with the negotiations for the fight, there was a clause in there that stated that were Kambosos to lose, then he would be able to rematch Haney in Australia. So
mm,
Haney was able
mm,
to get a decisive victory in the eyes of many And now
Yeah,
the question becomes, is that what happens next? And can Kambosos do anything to right the ship this time around? What are your
yeah,
thoughts on that potential rematch? Because also in the post-fight interviews, Haney and his father, the way they were speaking was in the with sort of it was cryptic in some sense, but it was they were giving the impression that hey, maybe this rematch isn't something that is definitively going to be next, or there's a possibility to not have that rematch next. I
yeah.
couldn't tell for sure, but they're kind of speaking cryptically in that regard.
Yeah, I don't know really if that should be a rematch either. I mean, because had it been a very close fight, then of course there would be more sense in that. But I don't know if Kambosos can change really enough. If he can change his style, enough to beat Haney in the rematch, because he would really have to adopt a different approach, and I don't know if he can do that. You
Yeah,
So
yeah, I get what you're saying there. Kambosos has been on the right side of decisions up to this point.
yeah,
If I don't, I think I might have slightly had.
Selby.
Oh yeah, I definitely had Shelby up slightly. I think I slightly
Yeah,
had Tiafimo up too.
was very yeah. Both fights were very close. Yeah, that's true. I mean, but I thought he did beat Teofimo, but it was very
Yeah,
close too.
yeah,
You
very
know, if,
very close. Not controversial. Definitely not
yeah,
controversial at all.
because
Even
if
with
he hadn't
Shelby.
scored that knockdown, I don't know if he would have gotten that decision. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is interesting. But I did think Lee Selby outpointed him, and that one, it wasn't controversial either. But I
yeah,
did
I'm,
think he outpointed
I'm
him.
gonna have to watch that again because I didn't start. I think I came on that fight during like mid middle of the fight maybe, so I didn't
Okay.
get to see the whole fight. But I know that I think Selby was better at first, but then in the later rounds, Kambosos kind of started really putting the pressure on him and taking over, and I think
Yeah,
that's what happened. Yeah,
yeah. I think he had some sort of tide shifting in that, and I'm not and I don't think Selby was this super strong champion or anything, but he showed
no,
up on that
he
night in
was
a way I believe. But
he was
you
a
never
good
know.
yeah good technical boxer, just and
Hmm.
yeah. Like Haney, but maybe not as good. I don't know, but
Yeah, yeah,
he
maybe.
was. Yeah, he was never really taught how to properly sit on his punches because he did have some power because he did knock out guys like Steven Smith, for instance, early on in
Mhm.
his career. One of the Smith brothers, from Liverpool,
Yeah.
brother of
Okay. Yeah.
Terence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but then when he became a champion, he was content to outbox opponents only, and he
Yeah.
wasn't really. I don't know what it was, whether he wasn't training right or what. I don't know. I'm not gonna speculate.
I
I
guess
think,
the win is a win approach.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
shout out, shout out, Greg Sandwich. You guys are awesome. I love the show. Appreciate it, my man. We appreciate you being in here, for sure. Elizabeth, give it hi to both of you, son. Showing my support. Thank you, mother. Just
Oh,
in there, in the mix, showing some love right there. That's real love right there. Showing support. We got
Mrs.
somebody.
Gilbert. Yeah,
Yeah,
I called her Mrs. Brewer last time, but it's Gilbert. Or sorry,
yeah,
Mrs.
yeah,
Gilbert. Hello.
yeah. Shout out Elizabeth Gilbert, shout out. But yeah, we're here talking about some boxing. Joshua here, Bod's here. We're talking about the fights from last night. Devin Haney, George Kambosos being this undisputed championship fight, and it turned out to be pretty good. Speaking of that card, though, there was also Junior Fa against Lucas Browne. Now, have you
Oh
seen what happened in that fight right there?
yeah.
Because Lucas Browne, just when you think he's done, down and out, he comes and does something crazy.
Yeah, I mean that guy. I mean, he still has the power. That's the last thing to go. So
Yeah.
he was just able to. I guess I didn't see it, but he was obviously able to just nail that guy far with the right punch at the right time. So
Yeah, and
because that's funny. Sorry.
bless you.
Yeah. He was, I
Bless you.
think, junior five. He went the distance against, thank you, Joseph Parker, and yeah.
Bless you
So,
again.
thanks.
Allergies, on these pollinated
Multiple.
days.
She's a multiple sneezer always.
But
So
yeah,
as I said, yeah, it was a big surprise because Junior Fa went the distance against Joseph Parker
I
in his
know.
last fight. So
Yeah, that is that. Yeah, that's what I harken back to. Just remember him being in with Parker, and of
yeah,
course, he was able to go through the entirety of that fight. And the way he was
mm,
moving in the first round, you thought it was going to be a long night for Lucas Browne trying to catch up with him and actually get something landed. But it didn't take
yeah,
long. First round knockout. Lucas Browne caught him with a overhand right. He actually came right over this jab, and Fa has a pretty solid jab. He came right over the jab, hit him, and sent him down. And he was it should have been.
yeah,
It probably should have been stopped right there. The way he was on the ground, just basically his muscles. He didn't have control of them for about 4 or 5 seconds. Then he got up on wobbly legs and got dropped again with a punch that was kind of behind the head. It was like back of the ear, kind of near being behind the head, but he probably shouldn't have even been able to get that by virtue of
yeah.
that first knockdown because he was really hurt. And yeah,
I
Lucas
guess,
Browne. I don't know. That boosts him in some sense. So it's a matter of who's
yeah,
next for Lucas Browne, right?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, when he lost to Dave Allen, I thought that was it. This guy can really finish. He cannot win against a 10-year-old, even. I mean, like, or a
Yeah.
70-year-old grandmother. But he's just. I think he knew that his best chance was to get this guy as early as possible. Otherwise, he would gas and just get a beating later on. And
Yeah.
that's what would have happened probably. Yeah.
Yeah, in all likelihood. So this makes it intriguing. So I think that this knockout it may put Lucas Browne in line for another
Yeah.
payday against someone. It's just a matter of whom. Could he be in line for one of these up and coming heavyweights who we think, okay, like, yeah, they look like they're gonna be the next big things. Here goes a veteran name we can get on the mix who just knocked out Junior Fa. So that'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see if something like that happens. Say a Philip Hergovich or uh
Yeah.
John Jalay.
I don't know if he wants to fight those guys, but yeah, it will be a good last payday, I guess, for him. And he's got heart, That's why I
Mhm.
used to like him, when he was before he got knocked out by Dillian White. I thought he might do, make some noise in that division, but that fight pretty much, it dispelled all those notions, and he looked pretty heavy and slow. I thought in that fight, very very heavy, and
Well,
that's why, yeah, he was taken out like he was, pretty much.
I will say that he looked heavy and slow in this fight as well.
Yeah,
you know, but it worked out for him. It worked out in his favor, being heavy and slow, I
yeah,
guess. So, but yeah, I think he'll definitely have tough sledding with some other fighters, and maybe Junior Five. He doesn't have
yeah,
that mentality as some of these other guys who are gonna bang it out, and he got caught. So, but it'll
yeah.
be interesting for sure.
Remember when he knocked out that huge guy, Richard Towers, I believe his name was. He's like 6'9" or something, and
Oh,
Brown knocked him out, I believe. Yeah,
I have to
I
check
think
back on that one. I
Towers
don't think
was
so.
from England, like
Okay.
something. I don't. Yeah, he was like very like Tyson Fury's height,
Oh
like.
wow, I had to look that up because I don't know if I've seen that.
And he wasn't, so bad. I mean, his record before a fight.
Sure, if I saw that, I know they were talking about him beating Ruslan Chagayev
Yeah,
and then popping on some tests or something after that or whatever
yeah,
before
yeah.
that fight.
There was some stuff over there in Russia, some funny stuff going on because he beat their guy, even though Chagayev is from Uzbekistan, man, anyway, he was fighting in Russia and living there, I think. So,
Yeah, Ruslan Chagayev. Yeah, interesting, interesting, and interesting stuff right there for sure.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, so on that card also, yeah, the other fight was Jason Maloney. He beat Aston Palicite, I guess that's his name.
yeah,
I think he's a Filipino fighter. And Maloney looked pretty good, decent knockout
yeah.
for him.
I
So it'll
saw
be
that.
interesting to see what's next for him. He's had some shots there at the top of the division with
Yeah.
Inoue and everything, and just
Oh, yeah,
come
that's
a little bit
right.
short. So we'll
Yeah,
see what he
of
does there.
course. When you fight in Norway, you don't really do well usually.
The monster, the
Yeah,
monster. Yeah, he could be the most complete fighters down at that weight in that area
yeah.
he's at. So 118, and he's going to be taking on Onito Donaire on
On
Tuesday. As a matter of
Tuesday,
fact,
Tuesday, yeah,
I
for
don't know
sure.
what time it'll be for you there, but I know here on the East Coast it's like 5:30 a.m.
Is it in Japan or?
Yes, it's in Japan.
uh,
It's over there. So yeah, you're gonna get that kind of weird
I
time.
believe, I believe they are like how much, 10 or 12 hours ahead of us. I believe something
Oh,
like
wow.
that.
Okay. Yeah,
So yeah,
I missed the last one, the live version of it because it was at a different time too when him and Donaire fought. But I don't think it was in Japan, or it may have
yeah.
been. But I just remember I missed it because it came on super early.
All right. I think they are 10 hours and Australia is 12. I believe that's something like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, that worked out timing wise. I know they had it set up. Probably it was agreed upon for that Haney Kambosos to be at that time, so
All
you can get the American audience in. So it was like around noon there,
right.
which is not the conventional fight
Yeah.
time, but it worked
I
out.
kind of I kind of miscalculated the Australian time and the
Oh
difference
yeah,
between, because I thought it would be like in the like afternoon or early afternoon here, today. But no, as I went to that, there was a site on YouTube, and there it goes. It was like 2 in the morning. It says just under 3 hours till the beginning of the main fight. I was like, what? At
yeah,
five
yeah.
in the morning, same as in America. Come on.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, it was like you have
Yeah,
to plan that, be up like the entire day for something like that, right? It's
yeah.
like,
Well, I'm
like,
not willing really to do that. I would have to drink like a lot of energy drinks.
that is funny, but yeah, it turned out to be a good event. And that shows. Yeah, people will
Yeah,
come out in Australia. That's a good little fight place down under. Of course, it's a lot to get there for fighters. Essentially, there really
yeah,
has to be some things at stake. Big things at stake for Americans to travel down there, especially if you're like the top guy or whatever. But hey,
yeah,
there's I saw something announcing that Tim Zoo is the mandatory for Jamel Charlo, and that fight could be next,
yeah.
which should be interesting. What do you? I didn't even have that on the list, but what do you think of that? Tim Zoo versus Jamel Charlo in
Um,
what likely will be the U.S. because Tim Zoo has said that he wants to actually fight in the U.S.
yeah. I would really want to see that fight, of course. I think because Sue is really obviously a guy who brings a good fight, aggressive fighter, and has has the power also, obviously. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, I think he will give a really Charlo a really good. Maybe, well, since Castaño, maybe his toughest fight because
Oh
he's
yeah,
been really looking good, so far and
yeah,
impressive. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah. I think it could make for a pretty good fight. Then you'll have that
yeah,
interesting. You have the Zoo name, so I think they'll use that in the promotions and
yeah.
everything. But I think that's
True.
a very much an interesting one. So we'll see if that actually kicks off here next time around. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a couple of good wins so far. I mean, when he Takeshi, and Terrell Gosha, and
Oh yeah, that was his
Jeff
last win, Gaucher, and he beat Jeff Horn, right?
O'Shea. Yeah, Jeff
Yeah,
Horn also he stopped. Yeah.
yeah. Jeff Horn was there at the fight last night, Kambosos fight. Um,
Oh yeah.
I was thinking that would that would actually be a good matchup, Kambosos for Jeff Horn. They seem to have a style that would make for a good matchup if the weight wasn't there.
Yeah, if Kambosos was a welterweight, I mean, does Horn fight at welterweight still, or is he like super welterweight now?
I think he had moved up to super welterweight.
Oh yeah, right.
The yeah, I think that's where he got beat by Tim Zoo at. Yeah, 'cause I think it was
I
super
thought
welterweight.
so. Yeah, he did actually. Yeah.
But I think that was more so because he probably it was going to be tough at 147. He wasn't about to get
Oh
much
yeah.
traction in terms of title contention, just given his style and the way he was beaten by Terence Crawford. So
Yeah.
that 154 move was one
Yeah.
that
He
he
was.
dropped it to me.
He was not very impressive in that fight for sure. He just kept going and going and taking punches.
Yeah, that's where his sort of flaws truly showed up in terms of when he was in
Yeah.
there with Crawford. You could just see that from a skill standpoint. Yeah, that just wasn't his game right there. But
Yeah, I mean, cutting off the ring doesn't help when you cannot really protect yourself, defend yourself from punches,
yeah, he
and or land.
overachieved a bit. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's what the problem was. He couldn't land anything.
yeah, yeah. That
Yeah,
was the yeah why
yeah.
he was so miserable. So I mean, why he failed so badly. Hmm.
Yeah, so but yeah, he's another name that is out there, but yeah, that one likely won't happen. So we'll see what goes down from here for those fighters from that card last night.
Oh,
Rodolfo Rivera being gonna lights up 86 bars. Rodolfo Rivera, what's up,
so good
man?
to see you. So good to see you. No problem. You
Good
are
seeing
late,
you,
but
Rodolfo, for sure. I co-sign that, man. Thank you for joining
yeah,
in. I know you're on the little immediate reaction from last night as well. Appreciate that without a doubt. We were just
yeah,
talking about the Haney Kambosos, and then I was gonna move to Joe Cordina against Kenichi Ogawa for the IBF
yeah.
130-pound strap, I believe it is, or yeah,
Yeah,
130 pounds. So super featherweight or junior lightweight, depending on what you call
yeah.
it. But this fight went down in
Super
Wales,
fun.
and you have a Welsh fighter, Cordina, there, who was a hot shot prospect who fought in the Olympics. He had up to this point looked very good. Of course, he didn't have
Mhm.
he didn't have a name that would make you say, okay, yeah, he's gonna definitely be the guy. But this was his first opportunity to show what he was made of, and this was on a world stage with the IBF title on the line that Kenichi Ogawa was defending for the first time. I forget who Ogawa beat when he actually won that title. We're gonna have to look that up, but it was
Yeah, I don't remember either.
yeah, I have to look back. I forget as well, but Kenichi Ogawa against Joe Cordina. Cordina just shut the show down with a
Yeah,
lights out knockout in the second round when he feinted like he was going to
amazing.
the body and just came with a straight right that sent Ogawa down, and pretty much his mind was no
Like
longer
a
in that location.
harpoon, right? Like,
Yeah,
almost.
it was such a pretty punch. It was just a beautiful setup. I mean, the way he caught
Yeah.
him, you have to go look online for that. Go search YouTube, everyone. It's like Cordina KO Ogawa, and you'll see you just caught him, and he was just done. So, what do you think of
Yeah.
that fight? Even though it wasn't
That
very long.
that was just wow. I mean, it came like such a surprise. I didn't really expect that, of course. And Ogawa, he looked like a tough customer, and he
Oh yeah.
started pretty well too. Like the first round was pretty even. I thought uh,
Hmm.
maybe Corina won it, but anyway, it was pretty even. And then in the second, it was just like midway through. I think that it happened, and
Yeah.
I didn't really know that Corina had that kind of power, But I guess they were really working on that punch. That's how it really looked because I don't
Yeah.
think it was by accident that it happened, of course.
No.
So
He mentioned that. He mentioned that in the post-fight interview that they were working on that at camp. That's something they
yeah,
focused on a lot, I guess. And he said it was
so
like second nature for him when he saw the opening and the setup for it.
yeah, so that was. It shows he's really got the instinct that you gotta have as a fighter, and to really close the show, and that was just amazing. I thought the fight was, of course, would probably even last distance, perhaps. I mean,
Same
because
here.
he did have one quick knockout before that, but that was against some nobody, and most of his fights were either by stop like TKO stoppages or points. He won, and but
Yeah.
this was just amazing. What a way of becoming a champion, right? That's just there's no better
Yeah.
way. So
Talking about arriving in a major way right there. That's the type of knockout that's going to
yeah,
be played all year. It's in that knockout of the year contention already. And if I'm looking at Cordina's record, and yeah, he didn't have any glaring name up to this point.
no,
Not a name that anyone would know here.
no, that's
Even those who follow the sport closely, because there's some names
yeah,
that I'm not even familiar with myself, to be honest. And so this was like Cordina's coming out party, and Ogawa, tough fighter right there. He's a solid and tough fighter, and I knew it would
yeah,
make for an interesting style clash um, because of the fact that Ogawa is this come forward, tough. He can take punches and he'll dish them out type
mm,
of fighter. And ultimately, I knew that would mean that it was going to be interesting, even if it had went
yeah,
on longer. He just got caught in this particular instance, so of course, it didn't work out for him. But
yeah.
it's interesting though. It
It
was an
was
interesting style clash or on paper,
yeah.
I would say, and it did deliver.
I think he was simply a little too cocky, maybe, and a little too confident of himself, and he thought that he was the bigger puncher, maybe he thought, or something like that. And even though he didn't really knock out anybody, of note, but anyway, he was only stopped. He only lost one fight. That was one of his first fights, and that was by
Yeah,
TKO. Might have been an injury. I
yeah.
don't know what happened. But anyway, uh,
Yeah, he had been on a solid run. Yeah, that was
uh,
it was early on, back in 2012 actually. Thinking about
yeah,
it.
yeah. So
Yeah.
he beat a guy called Azinga Fuzil to win that IBF
Yeah.
title. I've just
Yeah.
briefly heard of him. I don't really know that guy.
Yeah, I
So
remember seeing it. Yeah, I couldn't remember the guy's name, but yeah,
yeah,
Fazil. Yeah, and he was at and Ogawa had a no contest with Tevin Farmer. I can't recall what happened
yeah. He
as far as that.
originally won, but then they found some kind
Oh
of
yeah.
bad substance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is true. Yep, that is true. Shout out Mark Puller. Great conversation. Who can hold that belt? Shout out Mark. Appreciate you dropping
thanks.
in. Yeah, some lot of good fights last night. ESPN Plus. I know you're on that ESPN Plus tip. Check that out. You'll get to see that Devin Haney, George Kambosos fight, but also there are a couple other good ones on there that are worthwhile. But yeah,
Yeah,
shout out Mark, and then Rodolfo Rivera, he laid him out just like that. Eddie Hearn was freaking out. Yeah, it was one of those things. Yeah, Joshua Buatsi, he was there in attendance.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and
He
the
had
crowd was
some.
great. The
He
crowd
had
was
some
great.
nice things to say about Cordina. Yeah,
Yeah, without a doubt. That crowd was great there. And once he got that knockout, I mean, there's no holding back from there. It was just uproar. I mean, it was amazing. The way to close the show. If you're gonna be on the big stage and this is your first opportunity to headline something, man,
yeah.
that's a way to close. Headline something of note, with him being the main guy on this card that was pushed
Mm,
out on his own. That is just a noteworthy knockout. That's going to be a career highlight right there. To think that was his first world championship fight,
yeah, well,
and the way he did that, he closed it in fashion. So the future is bright for him in that regard, and that bright future could include Shakir Stevenson.
That's
What do
what
you
I
think of
was
that?
thinking. Well, my friend Tony, he asked me about that, how that would go, and I was like, a really good fight, but
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know really. uh,
it
yeah, I
definitely would.
really,
Yeah, I was gonna say I definitely think it would be one of those that is super technical. So you're probably not
yeah,
gonna get the type of action that you would think unless
maybe not.
both of them, went away from their plan. But I think both of them are so skilled that yeah, it's gonna be a highly technical fight where they to match up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't really favor Cordina. I mean, maybe he should have a couple of more fights before he takes on a guy like Stevenson. Maybe just to get a little bit more confidence and stuff like that. Uh,
Yeah,
but yeah, I think. I hope that fight will happen soon in near future. And yeah,
yeah,
probably.
yeah. I think it'll be good for the sport, definitely. And
Yeah,
I think I was saying last night that Shakir Stevenson, he's shown in the past that he's one of those guys that is willing to travel, or at least he stated that because he wanted to go to
yeah,
Leeds to take on Josh Warrington in his hometown, even though that didn't work out. So
all
I think he
right.
would even travel over to Wales where that fight would be. I think that fight in Wales would be bigger than what it is here, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So if I
that's
were
right.
Stevenson, I'd want to do that.
Yeah, because that then it will be the local hero, against a
Yeah,
really elite level guy, champion. But in USA, it would be just Cordina, just another foreigner, more or less.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah, right. Because but yeah, they would sell the place out for sure, and I
yeah,
think it would be even better for Stevenson's career as far as the trajectory that could put him on where you go over there. Because I think the fans in the UK from a boxing perspective, yeah, they're tops for me in terms of just how the atmosphere is over there. They even travel over here, so I know that if it were to take place here, he would have a lot of support, Cordina
mm,
there. But in terms of just from a media perspective, yeah, not a lot of people outside of boxing will know who Cordina is. And
no,
and Stevenson,
unfortunately,
he's a top name in boxing, a decent name, but not one of those names that is out there, in that
yeah,
real superstar status or anything of that nature.
yeah. He's still rather young, fresh, and he's just starting out as a as a real big name, and yeah. I
Yeah,
guess building himself up, yeah.
yeah.
It
Uh,
says, yeah. Hmm. Boxing almost feels unreal nowadays because we are slowly but surely getting. Yeah, that's true. That's
yeah.
true, of course. This is how. Wait, this was the second or third undisputed fight this year. I'm not sure. Was it the
Well, the
second?
Jamel Charlo versus Bryan Castano was undisputed, so that one for
Yeah,
sure. Oh yeah, then Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano was undisputed, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken, right?
yeah. But
Or
I was
or
not thinking of
well, no,
that.
you know what? Serrano was coming up in weight, so I think Katie
Oh
Taylor
yeah,
had all the belts though. So but it wasn't
yeah.
like she became undisputed in that fight. So yeah, maybe the second one. Thinking about it, because
Hmm.
I can't recall
And
who.
then
There was another
yeah.
one. Did Canelo so Canelo fought Bivol, that was his first fight this year. So yeah,
Yeah,
168 is not unified. So
no,
okay, yeah, that might have been the second one then. But yeah, as Rodolfo mentioned, we're getting undisputed fights. I mean, that's a big plus here in this four belt era. We've had a lot of situations where the belts would just be scattered about for years and years. And
yeah,
some of these guys would come in, they come into a division, win a title, and just move on to the next one, viewing that one title win or something like that as being, hey, like, hey, I made it. I can claim another division now. Okay, I'm going to move on to my next
yeah.
division. Never defending them or anything of that nature. So this is a change right here in terms of seeing people actually defend their titles to get to the point of
Mm.
trying to be undisputed.
I think also the pandemic had a lot to do with with all these unifications being made because they are we lost so much time that we that in all that time that nothing was going on there could be have been made many fights, potential fights, and that's why they were really eager to, crown as
Yeah,
many undisputed champions as possible, because and who knows what's going to happen in future. Also, what can happen, and another
yeah,
pandemic may, yeah,
yeah. A lot of
hopefully not. But yeah,
Yeah, a lot of possibilities for sure. We'll definitely see how that goes. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. It feels like a dream seeing Haney become undisputed because he's so young and everyone used to diss him and call him an email champ. Yep, that is very much true. That is very much true. He had got awarded
yeah,
that belt basically via email in some sense. But yeah, Haney, I think he's come on and he's shown that he's top level, he's top tier. Yeah, and yeah, he is a young fighter, but he's still on his game in that sense
yeah,
because yeah, he seems to be improving, getting better, and the sky's the limit for him. So he still looks like he has no problem making 135 pounds. So just think about him potentially getting a chance to take on some of these other fighters there that we want to see some of these interesting matchups. And then, he can ultimately move up to 140. And I think that stylistically, he'll be pretty solid there at 140 as well. So that's another opportunity or avenue he could take.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Rodolfo Rivera Jr., yeah, it's like boxing is changing for the better. I agree. I agree. But, this is what we've been clamoring for. We've been clamoring for the best fighting the best, and we're starting to get that. And this is
yeah,
going to be capped off by the Errol Spence Terence Crawford fight, which is
yeah,
currently at least in discussion for October of this year. I mean, we've been wanting that for, I would say, about close to 3 years now, and we're going to
yeah.
get it. And I think that timing wise, it's still good. It doesn't feel expired like Mayweather Pacquiao felt a little bit expired, but this one,
By
I think,
5 years about.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, this one I think these two guys are on their game, and they've shown in their last two fights they're the top dogs in 147 pounds, and this is gonna clear some air, and we're gonna see another undisputed champion. So this will be the third undisputed championship of the year if this goes down as expected. Someone's coming away unless
Yeah.
there's a draw.
Hopefully, we'll get a third undisputed champion crown this year. That will be maybe, I don't know. It has certainly hasn't happened in a really long time, I believe, in boxing.
Yeah, 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 definitely. Yeah, three in a year. You got to go
Yeah,
back to probably the days of there only being one belt. I don't know
yeah,
that for
like
sure, but you may have
30s
to.
or something.
Yeah, yeah, you
30s
may
or
have
40s.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah, true. That's the time when they were exchanging hands at varying times, or at least it
yeah,
was one belt. So if you were winning it, you were going to be undisputed for sure. But yeah,
yeah.
hopefully, we continue to see some of these great fights that have been mentioned in varying forums. So
Mm,
also, there was the on Showtime. Now, I was able to catch this as well. Stephen Fulton, he took on Danny Roman, and this was for I think they're at 122 pounds, if I'm not mistaken, the 122-pound championship. I forget, I had to look up which belts Fulton actually has, but I remember, he started, won the IBO, and then he just has looked good as he's gone on in his fighting career. And I thought he looked pretty dominant in his win over Danny Roman, who is a very good boxer, very technical, and he's shown that
yeah,
he can box at that elite level as well. But Fulton, he was just a little bit sharper, quicker, and his reflexes were on point throughout the night in this particular fight. And Danny Roman wasn't able to get anything off. He really wasn't able to get anything going. He had some moments, and they were literally just moments, I would say. And Stephen Fulton, I think the story of the fight was his jab. It was so sharp that he was using that to lead everything. And
yeah,
I think that showed a fundamental means for how you can really go in and take it to another sort of elite level fighter if you're in that situation. So it was a good one. I don't know if you had a chance to see any of the highlights or anything of that nature, but
not
Fulton, he
yet.
looks to
But
be getting better, and he's a real deal.
yeah, I was just looking at the situation is in the super bantamweight division. it doesn't look like there are too many big names there. So maybe I don't know if he will have to move to featherweight to eventually to really become a big name. But yeah, of course he's still. I did expect him to win this fight, of course, and he's
Yeah,
a very good, just really good fighter. I mean, nothing more to
yeah.
say. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so as well. I had picked him to win a decision over Rahman, but I know some people felt Rahman was going to win, and that for good reason. Rahman is a pretty solid, a very solid fighter.
He
Now
was
the
the champion for a while,
yeah,
also.
correct. He lost to Mirajan Akhmadaliev, who is
Yeah,
the
that's
MJ, who's the Uzbeki fighter, who's 10-0 now. But I think at the time he won it, he might have been like 6-0, so or 7-0, something
yeah,
like that. One of those guys who we always mention the Eastern Europeans.
yeah,
We always mention how good they are coming out of the system there in terms of when these guys with
mm,
all that amateur pedigree turn pro, they're ready to jump into title contention quick. And Mirajan was one of those individuals. So that's who Fulton
mm,
says he wants next. And he has a belt. I'm trying to see which one. So he has a WBA. Yeah, he has the WBA Super World
yeah,
Super Venom title and the IBF.
IBF, yeah. But that was also split decision. He won by against Daniel
Yeah,
Roma.
yeah. It was. I felt that MJ Mirjan Akhmadaliev, I felt that the win was
Yeah.
justified. But
Why
there
not
may have been others.
shorten that to MJ? That's just as well.
Yeah, MJ. That's what you have to shorten it to. I
Murajan.
just so happen to remember his name. I saw him fight in Atlantic City. It was on one of the Bivol cards, if I'm not mistaken, that took
Mm.
place there. I can't remember who Bivol was fighting
Let's
at
see.
that particular time, but yeah,
Just let's.
MJ.
Oh yeah, that was I found that fight against Isaac Zarate, right? Yeah.
Okay,
That
yeah. I guess it's that. Yeah, yep.
2018 November. Yeah,
Wow,
right.
it's been so long, right?
Yeah.
2018.
So
Interesting. I'm
yeah,
gonna see what card that was. I feel like Bivol was on there. Let me see the event.
yeah, boxing seems to really be big in Uzbekistan, and I guess the champions there are really treated like kings almost. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
without a doubt. So that card was Bivol against Jean Pascal that MJ was on, and also
yeah,
here's a heavyweight name, Sergey Kuzmin. He looked like at
oh
the
yeah,
beginning he was going to be something. He was going to be somewhat a guy that was going to be a tough sledding type of individual in terms of you didn't want to face at heavyweight, but it hasn't
yeah.
gone exactly as planned.
No, no, he's lost several fights. I
Yeah, he
think.
lost to Hunter and Bacoli back to back. Interesting. I didn't recall the
Yeah,
Bacoli one. But I remember Michael Hunter beat him.
yeah, Kuzmin. Yeah, but he was a rather solid fighter. Maybe still is, still just not. Maybe not now. Really, he's 34. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he's about to take on Richard Lardy on.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, that says well, it looked like it was supposed to happen on in May. I don't know what happened.
Oh
The
yeah,
pending.
that's right. It
It
just
says the
said,
pending there, so I guess it didn't happen.
yeah, maybe they, since it's in Russia, who knows? Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
they
Oh yeah, that's
just
probably what happened.
don't want to release, or they can't get the information. That's hard now because of the whole thing with Ukraine, and all that. Yeah.
Rodolfo Rivera Jr., what's up with the IBO? Do you guys think it will become a official world championship? Hopefully it doesn't, but I'll be happy if it replaced the WBA. Yeah, WBA they're usually on some BS, but I
Yeah,
don't know. I guess the potential is always there, and really when it comes down to championships, it really comes down to what they mean for the fighter. That's what the way I see it. So if you win the IBO as
yeah,
a fighter, I think, and yeah, you're probably happy about that. It at least ties a championship to your name in some sense. And I know a lot of individuals are sticklers for like what is considered a major belt and all that stuff, but I have no problem mentioning that someone is the IBO champion because at the end of the day, We know who the top guys in the sport are in terms of some of the potential top matchups that we're going to see. And title aside, I think it comes down to just the matchups in itself. So you can be WBA, IBF champion, but if you're only fighting duds, then what does that really mean? If the best guy has the IBO belt and you refuse to fight him, that's my 2 cents
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't really be against if they could replace WBA, but with
Mhm.
if not, then I'm not for it really. I'd rather have the same four major. Yeah,
For the sanctity of the sport, just
but
keeping it where it is now. But
yeah,
a fifth one would just add more wrinkles to the mix. I don't know how
yeah,
that comes about in terms of the what makes it become efficiently recognized. If that's like people media writing about it, or if those are sort of decisions agreed upon by the sanctioning bodies, or what. But I know at some point each of them were a small sanctioning body that kind of blew up and
yeah.
became like fully recognized. So I don't know the ins and outs of that, but I'm sure there's some people out there who probably have more insight on it.
I know very long ago you had this title called IBU, but that became
Oh
maybe
yeah,
WBC or WBA. I don't know. And there was this. I know one of them was called New York State Athletic,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, something like that
We
title.
saw
And
that back in
then,
the day. We saw that back in the day. Yeah, definitely. In the early 19, well, I would say probably around the 1920s or 30s, 40s, somewhere in
yeah,
there. We probably
yeah,
had saw. I think it was like that, and I think because New York was sort of the hotbed at the time, and getting a fight there at Madison Square, that was like the marquee fight, I guess, at that
mm,
particular time.
yeah, yeah. Everything was centered around Madison Square Garden. I mean, you had didn't really have Atlantic City and especially not Vegas.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, that is true.
mm,
Also on that, or let me see, Rodolfo Rivera Jr. Yeah, I think Triple G and Usyk supports the IBO, but we don't need 5 belts. I think 3 belts is perfect since when the boxer becomes undisputed, it would have 2 belts on the shoulders and one on the waist. Yeah, that is a
yeah,
good means of going about it. Um, yeah, and then we have the notion of the lineal champion. So that particular, I guess, status, I guess you can call it, will still continue to live on, to beat the guy, to beat the guy, to beat the guy, or gal. So yeah, I'm with you there, but we'll see. These sanctioning bodies, I'm sure they're always looking at ways that they can continue to evolve and allow them to make more money. So you never know. Bridger weight, like
yeah.
we've talked about, that may soon be recognized by all of the actual sanctioning bodies. And there you go, another belt right there to add, or weight class to add to the mix. More sanctioning fees, essentially.
Yeah, it would just be nonsense, definitely, I think. And then they will say, why not add another? Like, I don't know if WBU doesn't exist anymore, maybe. But anyway,
Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure. It could, or it may be very
NABF or
small.
something. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I remember the IBO wasn't really being mentioned at all. But hey, it's at least
No.
mentioned now.
It was, I think, Vladimir Klitschko maybe who gave it the prestige because I know he held it. He held that title also.
Yeah. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. To be honest, the WBA and WBC helped boxing become worldwide since boxing was only controlled nationally in the U.S. until the 1960s. Okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
interesting. That
that's
is
true.
true. That is true.
Yeah.
When you can tie the world to the name of the belt or whatever that, or the sanctioning bodies, then that definitely helps. Just thinking about it from an international standpoint, I guess that's where the appeal lies, because we do still
Yeah.
have national belts that are around or whatever. Zolfa Barrett, he just won the European 122
Yeah.
pound, or no, 130
That
pound
was
title.
that was a very boring fight, I must
Yeah, it
add.
was. It was. It was. I would say, but
I
hey,
just
he won the domestic title.
Yeah, I just stopped like following it like after I don't know how many rounds, 6, 7. I just switched off completely
Yeah, I
almost.
wasn't paying attention to it as much as well. He got the he got the victory or whatever, but it was definitely not one that was yeah, super not worth the replay. I would say doesn't have that
Yeah,
replay value unless you know him, of course. But he's at super featherweight, so his path
yeah,
to world championship status is going to be tough because he's going to have to go to Shakur Stevenson or Cordina. I think
Joe.
they have
Yeah.
the two belts wrapped up at this particular point, or the four belts, if I'm not mistaken. So Stevenson has the WBC, WBO. Cordina will have just won the IBF, so that leaves the WBO out there somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know who has the WBO at the moment, but yeah, interesting. Yeah, so we'll see what goes down for them, but yeah, in agreement. Or that's good stuff. Rodolfo sharing that info. Rodolfo, if it was up to me, I'll just have the lineal title. Yeah, that's the one that really
Yeah.
counts for many. Just thinking about it overall, that's the one that many tend to lean towards. If at the end of the day, yeah, of course, that help. That's what people will remember as well. Like, hey, this was the lineal guy. This was the guy who
Yeah.
truly beat the top guy in order to get the status that he or she had. So yeah, that lineal title definitely stands out. And then the ring, when the Ring Magazine awards their championship too, I think that is a big plus to you. And that's Ring has a storied history, so I view that one in
Yeah.
high regard.
You had to be really good. I mean, to hold both those titles. They weren't giving them out like like candy to anyone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
only the best in each division. Yeah.
Yeah, because we've seen instances where there were champions in the division, but the Ring didn't award the title.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So,
right.
so that makes it interesting. So another fight I just wanted to mention was David Morrell, who's the 168-pound
All
Cuban.
right.
He
He fought.
fought last night
Hmm.
against this guy Calvin Henderson, who came in 15-1-1, but it was a dominant performance by Morrell, and
I didn't know he fought. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, he had him bloodied and beat up. I think he stopped him in the fourth round TKO. It should have been
Hmm.
stopped in the third because Henderson was taking a ton of punishment, and
Oh yeah,
he was
right.
just sitting
I
there in the
see.
high guard, just eating shots. But the referee let him continue on. His
Hmm.
corner too. His corner probably should have stopped him as well. But David Morrell, man, I think that he, with just 7 fights in, I think he's legit. He has the WBA, so I think he can match up with any of the 168 pounders. And some may feel different, but I think he could hop in there with David Benavidez and make it interesting, Canelo and make it interesting. But
Yeah.
I do know that some people think that's too quick, too early for him. But I don't know. I just feel like Morrell seems to have all of the goods, and yes, he should
Hmm.
and probably will continue to get better. But you can just see that he is a very skilled fighter for sure.
Yeah, he definitely is, and he's pretty dangerous. I mean, too, with his punching power and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So he got this victory. Now it's a question of who do we see him in there with next, but only time will
Hmm.
surely tell. But oh yeah, and so since we last spoke, I guess now that we've gotten through that, or let me see what Rodolfo Rivera Jr. David Morrell is already in the Ring's top 10 at 168, which is impressive. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think he matches up well with anyone at 168 right now, and the fights will be interesting. I think it's just a matter. I view him as a high risk fight. For all of the top 10 guys there, especially if you don't have a title. He's a high risk fight. Yeah, but hey,
Yeah.
if you want to get to at least one title, you got to go through him. You got to go through Canelo and David
Yeah.
Benavidez. So
Yeah.
for what
Either
it's
would
worth,
be really a dream fight, either him against Canelo or even better against Benavidez, I guess. And yeah,
yeah,
because Benavidez is so very active and throws so many punches, and yeah, that would be a really amazing fight, I think. But also Canelo would be a really great matchup for him.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it'll be interesting because We know that Canelo's not going to be available because, of course, Canelo Triple G has been announced in I guess, seemingly signed, sealed, and delivered for September 14th, 2022. Canelo Triple G 3. So this is going to be
Yeah,
that
that
trilogy
one.
in what has been two controversial fights, I guess you can say, where varying
Yeah,
people have varying decisions. Each fighter's a little bit older now, but we know that Canelo at 30 years of age or whatever, 31 maybe, we know
yeah,
that he is pretty much at the top of his game right now in his prime. And Triple G, on the other hand, is no longer in his prime, but he's still an impressive fighter with power, and it'll at least be interesting for as
yeah.
long as it lasts. But I know we've
He's a
had opinions
beast.
of it.
A
Yeah,
beast is a beast, no matter the age. I mean, of course, he's a rather. I mean, he's no longer what he used to be, but
yeah,
he's not 50 either. So
yeah,
he's not
true.
completely washed up or anything. But yeah, it's true that he wouldn't be really favored by so many anyway in this fight, and that's something you gotta be. I mean, you gotta be realistic. If he wasn't able to knock out, especially Canelo in the first two fights, then he's
Yeah,
got no chance in the third either. So,
yeah, it's certainly
and
going to
to
be
get,
pretty tough.
yeah, and as we saw, he couldn't even get a decision in any of those fights in his favor. So,
Yeah, you're right. So that's going to make it tough at this stage for sure, and it'll
yeah,
be interesting to see how things shake out in that fight. I I have to go with Canelo. I mean, conventional
yeah,
wisdom says decision because Triple G is tough, but if Canelo were to pull off a stoppage, I wouldn't say I would be shocked. I don't expect it, but I wouldn't
that
necessarily
would
be
be
shocked.
hard. Yeah, yeah, hard. It's possible, but it would be hard. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it would be very tough. But Triple G,
Mm.
yeah, like I said, he is a beast and all that stuff. Been less active the last few years, so you have to wonder how that plays into it in terms of yes, he did fight Murata, but Murata was kind of a fighter with the style that's tailor made for a Triple G, and had this been a few years back, I think Triple G would
I
have got him out
guess.
of there even sooner.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Morrell did well at first, but I think Triple G was just he was trying to get him to to empty his tank, and I guess he was
Yeah.
started out so slow, and yeah, then he just upped the tempo and did the job. Yeah,
Yeah, it
got
worked
the
out for
job
him.
done. Yeah,
Hey, sometimes that's all you can ask for, right? Um, but
yeah,
but yeah, so yeah, that aside, yeah, those are probably the top fights of the weekend right there. We do have some other good stuff coming up, as mentioned. Inoue against Nonito Donaire, which should deliver because they seem to be matched stylistically pretty well. They seem to match up well with each other. So
yeah.
that is another one that's coming on Tuesday. If you're on the East Coast here in the U.S., of course, that's going to be 5:30 in the morning. So I think a lot of people might be watching it via replay, but it should deliver. I would say it should deliver. Um,
Yeah,
then coming up, we do have Artur Beterbiev, Joe Smith, the 18th of
yeah.
June. That should be a fireworks fight right there. Probably, yeah, not going the distance. I don't think it'll go the
Yeah.
distance, but that'll be
Talk
very, very
about
interesting.
talk about a firefight.
Yeah,
That's really uh,
I had forgot about that for a reason. I had said that the fight I was most looking forward to was Sarisaket Sorangvisai against Bam Rodriguez, but I had to change my tune. I had forgot that Beterbiev and Joe Smith Jr.
yeah,
are taking on each other. So that's what I'm most anticipating here in the month of June for sure,
yeah.
because I think, like you mentioned, that is going to be absolute fireworks. And you're talking about two of the biggest punchers in boxing going at it.
Hmm,
Something's got to give.
yeah. By the way, I'm pretty disappointed that now Mungia has to fight this guy Jimmy Kelly. I don't really
Oh,
know
I saw that.
why they keep him fighting those. Even though he does have a win over a guy who was undefeated, but he has I think that guy he beat, Kana Islam, he has been kind of
Oh yeah,
pretty inactive for a long time. He was very good, but he is more like a junior middleweight. He was
yeah.
better at that weight. So, but
You know,
anyway,
the funny thing
yeah,
is when I saw that, I just only saw the headline. I saw Mungia Kelly, and then my mom popped up. Mungia Kelly, is he taking on Josh Kelly? Because it was the zone, you know what I'm saying? But yeah,
well,
I guess
yeah,
Josh Kelly is at 147. But then I looked it up and I saw it was this guy. And yeah, and I hadn't seen him, or at least I don't recall ever seeing him. So yeah, it's one of those kind of stay busy fights, I guess you can say.
yeah. I just hope that he doesn't have to have much. I mean, more before he than this one before he fights a really a bigger fight than we.
Well, yeah, the timing works out. Or did you know when it's for? When this fight? When that fight is happening? Actually.
Yeah, it says actually the next weekend. Wow,
Oh, it's
the
next weekend.
11th.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Okay, I see. So the timing works out with Jamel Charlo taking on Masic Sekluki. I may have gotten it.
Suletsky.
Suletsky. Okay, Suletsky. So the timing works out. That's taking place on the 18th. That is a name
Yeah.
that's out there, of course. Jamal Charlo. So
Mm,
potential for Jamal Charlo, Jaime Munguia. It could line up depending on
yeah.
what happens with these two fights between the two. Of course, I think that Munguia, yeah, his is probably more of a given, but we'll see how
Yeah.
Jamal looks against Suleski, who
That
was
will
a
be.
solid fighter. Solid.
Yeah, Suletsky. Yeah, that's true. He's like more of a boxer than a puncher, I believe. But yeah,
Yeah, we'll see if he makes a statement. I don't think
yeah.
anyone's been able to get Suleski out of there.
Mm.
Let me see.
Yeah, Suletsky lost to Andrade, and who
And
else
Danny
was it?
Jacobs.
Yeah,
Danny
Jacobs. Yeah,
Jacobs. So no one's
yeah.
been able to get him out of there. So that would be impressive
Yeah.
if Jamal was able to do that.
He's a tough guy, and he beat Gabe Rosado, and that
Hmm.
guy who was Centeno Jr. He actually stopped him. Yeah, I
Oh
saw.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah, Hugo Centeno Jr. Yeah, he looked like he was going to be pretty good, and but yeah, he
Yeah,
ran
he
into
was
some roadblocks.
undefeated. He was undefeated at the time, so that was a pretty big upset, I think.
And Santino got knocked out by Jamal, I believe.
Yeah, that and
Brutal
quick.
knockout.
Yeah, very quickly, I believe. Was it first or
The
second?
second round, it looks like.
Yeah.
Santino, yeah. So yeah, he's Santino since then. Yeah, he's lost to Willie Monroe Jr. and he just lost, I guess, in January to Antonio Tide, who is seems just like a journeyman type fighter.
Hmm.
So
Cool.
yeah, Santino is, I guess, is a name at this point, just
Yeah.
a fairly noticeable name that could be added to the resume of a fighter on the come
Yeah,
up.
he's I guess one of those kind of tricky, maybe tough guy, of course, and kind of tricky to fight. Who can upset guys who aren't absolute, like elite level, of course. But
Yeah,
against
what
the
got him
very
on?
best, he hasn't really shown himself against the best. So
Yeah, I remember what got him over was his knockout over Emmanuel Alim when that
well,
happened in
yeah,
2017. So
that's right. Salim, yeah, I know him. He's the
Alim,
guy
yeah,
who
he was solid.
stopped Yevgen Kitrov, the first guy to beat Kitrov, who was like considered a promising fighter, a Ukrainian fighter.
Mm,
Hmm.
yeah, good stuff right there for sure.
There's
But yeah,
also Trevor Bryan fighting Danielle Dubois next weekend.
for some heavyweight WBA title, is that what it
Yeah,
is?
defending. Yeah,
That's crazy that that belt is out there. I mean, that they
yeah.
have it. You know,
I was like, come on, this guy is a champion WBA. I was like, who
some have
ever
mentioned it was
knows?
a favor called in by Don King because
Yeah,
Bryan
right,
is with Don King.
right, of course.
Maybe
Now
the only
it's
champion on his roster.
yeah. somebody owed him a favor, obviously.
Yeah, so that's be an interesting fight, I guess you can say. I don't know.
Yeah, I expect Dubois to blast him away simply, like
Yeah, I think
five,
so as
six
well.
rounds. Yeah,
It's crazy that he's gonna Dubois is about to get this title, and Joe Joyce hasn't even got a shot
yeah,
at any of these top guys, and he handled
yeah,
Dubois, so that's interesting.
yeah. The boxing works in funny ways these days.
Yeah, Frank Warren, I guess, hey, work some things.
Yeah, Frank Warren is an old fox who can still hunt.
So, so maybe the plan is, if Dubois gets this belt, then he can make Dubois Joyce two, and
Yeah, yeah,
then
that would be good.
title shot.
Yeah, because
I need,
the boy he was pretty good in that fight, but he just got kind of unlucky with the eye and all that. He was yeah,
yeah, unfortunately
just
for Freak.
yeah
Yeah, you're right about
to
that.
unable to stop Joyce, because he's used to winning by knockout, and he
Yeah,
just couldn't do that against Joyce, and yeah,
yeah. So Joyce is scheduled to fight on July the 2nd at Wembley, but it doesn't have an opponent. Interestingly enough,
yeah, the juggernaut.
yeah, he's one of those guys who, ideally probably would be better if he was more active at this particular stage, but he only
Mm,
fought that Carlos Takam fight in 2021, and then
yeah,
2020 he had beat Dubois in November of 2020. Then he fought in July 24th last year, and this is about to be July 2nd, so almost a year out. So I know he's kind of on a fast track as well because he's 36 now, and
yeah,
I'm sure the
yeah.
sooner the better for him.
He started late as a pro. I was surprised when I saw how old he was, and like when I first watched him fight. And yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, he's not getting any younger for sure.
yeah, definitely. So yeah, it'll be interesting. So Joe
Yeah,
Joyce potential for
good old Joe
Dubois
Joyce,
type.
the juggernaut.
The
He
juggernaut,
remembered
Joe Joyce.
that skull cap he wore when he came in. It was
Yeah,
against, I guess,
yeah,
Takam.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
the juggernaut. I'm the
He really
juggernaut.
was like into his character, his nickname.
Yeah, certainly. I see Sam Eggington versus Permin Zisk. Oh, some names I know. My guy Tommy Silvanonen fought Zeisk, and he's taking on Sam Eggington on the 25th.
Oh yeah, that's right, Sam Eaton. I
Sam
think
Eggington.
he is probably washed up by now. That's how it looks.
Yeah, he's
Well,
been in a lot of tough battles for sure. He's 31
yeah,
and 7. So
I
Zeiss,
was I was quite surprised when he lost to Ted Cheeseman. I didn't really expect that
yeah, I thought he
easily.
would win that too. They had the promotion egg and cheese, which I
Yeah,
thought
all
was
right.
pretty
Cheese, an egg omelet. Yeah, that's right. That's,
egg and cheese. Rodolfo
yeah,
Rivera Jr. I want to see Joseph Parker versus Joe Joyce. That's a very interesting fight for sure. Certainly a very interesting one. Has the
yeah.
potential of being
I would
uh
love to see, Hergovich fight Joyce Rudder, but anyway.
oh yeah, Herkovich Joyce. Yeah, that would be interesting. I think Herkovich would bring it to Joyce in a way that
Yeah,
we're going to see some real exchanges. Which Parker, he's looked more offensive since he's been with Andy Lee, but yeah, that
yeah,
Joseph Parker Joe Joyce fight on paper it has the makings of either
he's,
a good fight or a rather boring fight. Depends on how it goes, though.
yeah. And he is with the Gypsies now, the Travelers, and what's his name? Joseph Parker. He
Oh
jogs
yeah,
with Tyson Fury, and he's
oh yeah, yeah.
well, he did anyway until Fury retired, or we'll see if he
Oh
really
yeah,
retired.
Fury is retired as champion.
Yeah,
We'll see how long he's gonna
we'll
be out.
see. I don't think he will stay, but retire. But anyway, who knows?
Shout out to Hyphy. Big ups 86. Heard you on random stream late last night. Hey, appreciate it, my friend. Appreciated you coming in. Yeah, it was great. Shout out Random Acoustic Thoughts. We had some good chats and conversations. Definitely. And we were talking some old school boxing here the other night, and it was on Harry
Yes.
Greb, a great champion who, of course, from back in the day was the world middleweight champion, but he has one of the craziest records and resumes in boxing history, just period, even championship aside. But it was a good conversation for sure. Shout out Random Acoustic Thoughts. Shout out Hyphy. Appreciate you dropping in here.
Who did you say it was? What's his name? The champion former. You said.
Harry Greb, the Pittsburgh
Oh,
windmill.
Grab,
Harry
yeah.
Greb. Yeah, Harry Greb.
Oh no, I
Yeah.
thought you said you talked to a former champion. You sure you
Oh no,
didn't
no,
talk
no,
to
no.
Harry
We were
Grab?
talking about the former
Oh
champion, but
yeah,
yeah, Greb, he's been deceased too long. I
yeah,
couldn't, get a conversation started with him.
yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
weird that they don't have really any footage of him, right, fighting. I think it's like
yeah,
maybe they got like a minute or something. I heard very long ago of
yeah. It's
him.
like a newsreel that took place before
Yeah,
his fight with Mickey Walker. An interesting thing about it is the fight was filmed. We have the newsreel, but the fight in itself definitely may be
just
out there
Vance.
or just destroyed.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'd rather have the fight than the newsreel, but hey, I guess we got the newsreel, so that counts for something, right?
Yeah, because they got some really old fights, like their entirety. But yeah, it's weird. They don't
Rodolfo
have
Virginia,
any.
what's up, Hyphy? By any chance, are you from the Bay because of your name? Super Hyphy. That was a thing. Hey, it's still a thing over there, the West Coast, the Bay Area, but it was out
What's
there
that?
big time last decade, early in the last decade, I would say. We were talking about that Hyphy movement. You don't know
I
anything about
don't.
that, Slavin, I know, but it's a thing. You have to look
Nope.
it up.
All right, I will. I like
Yes,
to
sir.
get a reference to understand a reference like that.
Hyphy. But yeah, cool. But yeah, I mean, yeah, good
Yeah.
conversation and all that stuff. So where I'm headed to now is over to the stream of Fight Night scores. We're about to rewatch the 2016 war that was Francisco Vargas against Orlando Salido.
Oh,
Fight of the or
nice.
2016, I believe it was. Yeah, so there was the fight of the year then.
I want to watch that fight, but I will have to find somewhere anyway. Yeah.
So we're gonna be showing it on that stream on Fight Night scores. You can definitely check out. We'll definitely check it out.
All right.
Um,
Cool.
yeah, Rodolfo. I was like, I'm surprised you know about it. He said, "Oh yeah, trust me, I know about it, Rodolfo. I'm most certainly in with the hip hop movement. So yeah, I know
I
about
thought
what's
it
popping off
was.
there."
I thought it was something like that. Must have been.
Yeah, definitely. I know about those guys, Mr. Fab, Mac Dre, I guess, who started the hyphy stuff, or really is a foundational piece of those guys right there. So Mac Dre, R.I.P. But yeah, I know about those guys, Mr. Fab, E. Funzarelli, my man E40. I mean, the most unique
Fuzarelli.
voice in rap right there, or one of them at least
Fonz.
of the year.
Fonz.
E. Fonzarelli. I mean,
All
that
right.
hyphy movement. I give him credit. So yeah, definitely.
But it's
Uh,
weird, what you can really you come across weird stuff now, because I was watching this show, this Letterman all interview with this director, and then he mentioned this guy called Stepin Fetchit, and I was like, "What? That's a person?" Yeah, it turns out it was a comedian, very old. Like, I don't know
oh
if
yeah.
you heard of him, but he was like, "What a name, Stepin Fetchit." It sounds like some kind of,
Step
I don't
and
know, hip hop, yeah, group or something, or
fetch it. Well, I had to look at I had
some
to look at
sort
that.
of dance, maybe. Stepin Fetchit.
But yeah, well, okay, we had to check that out. I'm gonna put you on some hyphy stuff, Boz. I try to share some music with you. So hyphy is from Bay in Los Angeles. Represent. Uh, hyphy. The name of that channel is called Fight Night Scores. Fight Night Score. Fight Night Scores. I think if you type that in there, it'll pop up. So they're gonna be they're going live right now. I'm gonna hop up in the mix of that right there. Hey, maybe I'll see you all over there. We'll check it out. See what's up. Rodolfo, San Jose,
Yes.
represent.
Oh, yeah, San Jose.
Yeah, hype is old from the 2000s. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, that
Most
was
certainly.
around when I was in my best years, my prime almost.
Who do you listen to? 86, man. I listen to a lot of people, you know what I'm saying? Future's
Same
my
here.
guy. Yo
But
Gotti.
not, yeah. We listen to very different music. I think I
Yeah,
listen
we
to
do
all
listen
of,
to some very different music.
but
Fabian,
I
I
like,
listen to some hip hop.
yeah,
Check out
some
Fabian.
some more modern jazz, but otherwise I listen to mostly rock, like yeah, almost. But I also love progressive rock, which is like a mixture of classical music and or anyway, it can be different, but it has to be weird rock anyway, like art
Oh,
rock.
yeah. Rodolfo, you remember a group named Totally Insane? Interesting. Yeah, I don't know if I've heard of them for sure.
Hmm.
Uh, but a lot of groups out there. Shout out to my man Fabian. He's with the sort of rock, alternative rock. Got some good stuff out there. I put the name on the screen right there, Boz. Check him out. I think I may have sent it to you before. Fabian,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Representing on the music tip. But it is what it is. So yeah, fight night
Fabian.
scores. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
let me see. I'm gonna put it in the thing, but about to go over here to fight night scores, and we're gonna talk some. We're gonna talk some boxing or some
Mhm.
Salido versus Francisco
Toledo
Vargas on a boxing standpoint. So
City.
there it is.
Vargas. That was a guy that bottomed out pretty fast. His
Oh yeah,
career.
yeah. What's crazy? He just fought this year. He got fought like a month or two ago, even though he probably shouldn't be fighting at this point. But he got knocked out pretty quick. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, he did kind of bottom out. So
Yeah,
one of those
Burchelt
things.
ruined him, and that's what he did to a lot of guys, I believe. That's
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, it happens, man. It certainly
yeah,
happens. Tough sport. But yeah,
yeah.
appreciate you joining in, boss. Catch you later, Rodolfo. Shout
Yeah.
out to Rodolfo. Shout out Hyphy. Shout out my mom even who was up in this thing. Shout out Greg Sandridge, Mark Puller.
Mrs. Gilbert.
Yeah. Shout out Sandridge. Mad, Motivicious, Ambitious, and Driven. Heading over to Fight Night Score. So I'll check you all out, over there. Watch that Vargas versus Salido fight. If you
Salido.
haven't seen that, it's an absolute war. Absolute war. So I think you'll like it. But yeah.
Yeah, Salido was, I mean, pretty amazing, like a
One,
warrior. Yeah,
yeah. One of my favorites to
endless
watch right there.
stamina. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you knew he was gonna bring it each time, you just knew
Yeah, I mean, what he did to Juan Lopez, that was, pretty amazing,
I know he ruined. I was gonna mention this when I get over there to that thing. He ruined one of the biggest fights from that particular time, Gamboa versus Juanma, which would have been a hell
Yeah,
of a fight. So
that
Salido had to
was,
go and ruin that crap, man. Unfortunately,
yeah, that was a great pity. I know.
I know
I,
it's just so unfortunate. That would have been a hell of a fight. We know that someone's
yeah,
gonna get knocked out, likely Juanma, but it was gonna be all action, and unfortunately, we
yeah.
didn't get it.
He was just the wrong opponent for Juan. It's obvious because I thought that Juan would win the rematch, but no, yeah,
Yeah,
he
and
was
then it's
just,
just like it was all downhill for Juanma after that.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, all right. Peace out, Rodolfo. See you.
all right, y'all. You all have a good one. Definitely check us
Yeah.
out. Fight Night Scores.